Hey everybody, it's Stan again. My video today is my case study, my mercury toxicity story, vapors at work I was exposed to, and amalgams, and who knows what else. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, but it's kind of hard to talk about yourselves, and it's very hard to explain. Like in my case, I think things started when I was a kid, and I'm 66 years now, and I've had ups and downs throughout my life with different exposure and different symptoms. So I tried my best to sort of put this in some timeline, and I'll try not to talk too much, but it's probably going to be about 40 minutes or so. This stuff here I have in all my videos. My big thing is get to the root cause of your issues. Most people think they got a root cause, but they don't go deep enough. Like they'll say, all the food's poisoned. Okay, well, take it deeper than that. What exactly is poisoned in it? What are the trace and low levels that are in your food? How did that even happen? MTHFR is a big one. A lot of people try to chelate with MTHFR and they get messed up. I do not suggest chelation. There's other ways of doing it. Make sure your detox pathways are open. Make sure you remove all the exposure. Even a small speck of amalgam left in you will stop you from detoxing. I reacted to trace mercury. That was an a fish oil supplement once. So realize that trace amounts can harm you. Leaky gut's important to heal. The mom transfers toxicity to the baby. So all you younger moms out there, keep that in mind. Other issues can impact how you detox, and my good friend of mine, says take care of metals first. That was her experience dealing with Lyme and mercury and other things. So blood test is not the proper test. And boosting glutathione was my main detox approach, as well as other natural things. Here's a few links you can look into that kind of helps make you wonder, how does this all happen and how could it possibly happen? The IAOMT.org link is a way to find a dentist that knows how to do safe removal. That's the only way to do it. Once you see that protocol, you'll think to yourself, why do I have these in my mouth? I mean, how can they be safe if that's the protocol to remove them? So anyway, let me get into this. I'll do my best to stay on track and not get off track. Again, it's a lot to explain. So just a starting comment, a popular mercury support group admin, like 10 years ago when I was in it, said it's not uncommon when one person in a family is with mercury issues that other family members might also be. But not everybody in the family knows that. So one may realize the problem, the others may trust the system and think mercury's okay. Amalgams are okay and safe. So you get this conflict within the family. You see that a lot. Like I'm the one in the family, for instance, that's gone this route. I don't want to speak about my kids or my ex-wife, but they've all had mercury issues. And kind of trust the dentists that say it's okay and safe. I hope that changes for everybody soon, because I think it's going that direction, because there's a lot of sick people that could be healed. And I didn't get it either. It took me a long time. I'm an engineer, so I kept trying to prove to myself that this really was what it was, and I'll talk about that as I go through this. So the issue about that is, wouldn't this just like run in the family? They kind of make you think things run in the family and they're genetic and all that kind of stuff. It isn't necessarily that it runs in the family. It's just that your family got poisoned. Okay, and then they'll put the blame on genetics and all these different diseases they'll give you. Okay, so one thought is, like I say here, is if one person is mercury toxic, it's likely because their detox system is not 100%. It can be genetic. Genetic, in my opinion, may mean passing toxicity from generation to generation. So by 2 generations past, the person might be pretty sick. Another example, like my mom had various issues. I had them too. So did my sister. My dad did too, in different ways. Um, I also see it in my external family. My mom's side, my dad's side, with mental issues, suicides, various personality traits. And when I say this, I'm speaking from my experience. Like, my personality literally changed as I detoxed. Okay, the toxic me is a different person than the detoxed me in certain ways. Not every way, but certain ways. Okay. Many people just haven't made that connection. Let's see. In my case and my sister's, my mom seemed to have hereditary toxicity issues where my dad was forced toxic poison from unwittingly being exposed to mercury vapor fumes at work. Not a good combination, right? Plus, he worked in other places that had other bad chemicals like formaldehyde and all that stuff. So, lifetime, 40 years working in heavy industry around bad chemicals. Trace amounts only, though, right? They're safe. Not. So let's get to my story. I'll try to keep on track here and not get off course. So it might be difficult to explain because, in my opinion, I had issues as a child, maybe due to MTHFR, maybe from toxins from mom because I was the firstborn. Then I had about 10 amalgams starting from, I think, age 14 or so. And then I was poisoned at work at age 21 from breathing mercury vapors from cells that are used to make chlorine. Or maybe it was just the trace vapors at that factory site. There's no way to be really exact. But I do know I was standing on top of one of these cells taking voltage measurements as part of my job. And that's about the time I got sick. So I think I was standing on top of it. Vapors were coming off. And again, they were mercury cells. And I got exposed. So I'll try my best to give a reasonable timeline of my way to best health. Starting from when I was a kid, I recall having stomach issues all the time, as well as ear infections. Those happen to be both mercury symptoms. I remember I was given some of the first antibiotics back then, which a lot of us don't think are good nowadays. So who knows what that did to me. I remember being in third grade, my teacher referred to me as being sickly. I really hated to hear that because I knew I didn't feel right. I didn't like not feeling right. It pissed me off. It wasn't my fault. I had an upset stomach a lot back then. I thought, well, maybe I didn't like going to school, but that was definitely part of it. But, there was definitely something else going on there. And, just another example of how people in authority can say things and how it sticks with you one way or the other. And a lot of us struggle with that, with what our doctors tell us, for instance. Anyways, let me continue on. I was also born with a congenital heart issue. I have a bicuspid aortic valve. Back in 1959 when I was born and we didn't have echograms, the doctors were pushing for open heart surgery. Thankfully, my parents stopped that. To this day, I have had no surgery. I do monitor it annually. And lately, they say it's changing. It's changed to an aortic aneurysm. Why do they call it such a scary name? Okay, I'm saying these things for a reason. Fear is a really strong emotion. And if you look around the world we live in, I see a lot of fear. And it's one way to control people. It's one way to make you think one way versus another way. So, honestly, when I heard that, I thought, why are they calling it that? Maybe the data they have now we didn't have years ago, and you can measure minute changes in our aortic size, and all of a sudden now it's a new illness that I got to deal with. Yes, it might be something to keep track of, and yes, maybe it's a good diagnostic that may help me down the road if it gets worse. So far, it isn't changing at all. I did have a little bit of a scare with one of the results where they told me 2 years ago they saw something that they didn't tell me about, and 2 years later they tell me. So I'm wondering about that too. Like, it's almost like somebody's trying to drum up business. Sorry I'm making these comments, but that's how I feel. I've been in this way too long and I see too much. If you don't like what you're hearing, then just stop listening and move on. I I think if you have an open mind, you will learn way more and get to the root of your problems a lot quicker in this, because there's so much telling us that we're sick for other reasons. I have MTHFR, which has various congenital issues, like quite a few of them, ADHD and many, many, many more. I was going to show you a chart. I didn't look it up right now. Maybe I'll look it up later. Maybe I'll do that. I've done it in other videos. Look at my MTHFR videos. You'll see the chart. I'm sorry, I don't want to go look for it now and waste your time. I had braces when I was about 9 years old. I had them for like 7 or 8 years. What were they made of? Were they nickel? I once saw a comment in a HS group. It's a bad skin disease group, and the majority were allergic to nickel. That was very interesting to me. But no one there made a connection of allergies, which are often caused by heavy metals, to the HS disease, which is sad. I find many are not good at looking deeper to root cause. Okay, my background, I'm an engineer. My coworkers are all not very good at finding true root cause, and they're engineers. Okay, sorry guys and gals. We all seem to be trained that way, though, so it's not really our fault. It's just the way the system works. Or we're shown different ways of coming to conclusions that don't necessarily come to the right conclusion. You have to think a little deeper, and you have to, like I say, be a good chess player. I don't play chess, but the deeper you go, or the more you can look like 3-4 levels deep on something and then kind of summarize what you're seeing, I think the best chance you'll come to the real answer. Around the age of 15, 18, I started to get cavities, and I had to get amalgam fillings. Was there some incompatibility with the braces to the amalgam? My teeth were in rough shape after the braces removed. I'm saying, was there some galvanic type eroding action maybe? Just throwing it out there, okay? Because I had a lot of cavities filled. Something like 10 amalgams I had to get filled after my braces. That seems kind of odd, right? At that time, we used a family dentist who was kind of older, probably should have retired, but he was very slow. We swallowed a lot of amalgam while getting our teeth filled. Take a look at my sister's case study story. She's schizophrenic, supposedly. What happens when you swallow amalgam? I had a lot of digestive troubles as a teenager and into my 30s and 40s still. And even now, that's one of my biggest issues I'm dealing with. My symptoms at that time, as I recall, included digestive problems, constipation. I was very shy. I had a short fuse. My eyesight kept getting worse very fast. A lot of astigmatism. Always seemed short of air or oxygen. I thought it was my heart related. Often I would do odd things I would not do now. Like, I'm trying to give you an example of what I mean by odd. Like I'd go rob a bank, because why not? You know, I mean, you get these weird thoughts. There's a term they use for it. I can't think of what it is right now, but it's a Mercury symptom. Okay, you don't feel the repercussions of actions, I guess, is the best way to put it for right now. So anyway, that's amalgams. Around age 21, I started my first job at a local factory that made chlorine using mercury cells. A lot of people were sick there. My dad, my buddy Vince, many others in their 50s were with cancer. Okay, not to repeat myself from other case studies, but the union president tried to get awareness to all the sick people. He even had a local TV news station do a special there. One of the local troubleshooters who did some good to bring the issues out. That was in the mid-1980s. It was 82 when I was poisoned with the mercury fumes. I did not know what was wrong with me. I really don't recall the moment I got sick. It was acute poisoning from the symptoms, for sure. I don't recall if they all happened at once or slowly over hours to days. I just don't remember that part. I just remember what I was doing, and I remember getting really, really sick. Some of the symptoms, and this is not all of them. This is just a few that were maybe the worst. I had these really bad panic attack feelings. I would feel like a weird sensation come across my chest, like a numbness, which scared me because I had this heart issue I was born with. I would wait to see if my heart was still going. It felt like it wasn't. It always did, so I had to get used to this sensation and not panicking. I believe it was the mercury as it made its way through my blood system. Sorry, I got a typo. It was probably harming my adrenals. We do know that mercury affects adrenals really, really bad, and when you crash your adrenals, you get these weird nervous feelings inside, okay? Trembling. So one time I went to dinner with my ex. We were dating at the time. We ordered food. The panic feeling came on me, and I told her we need to leave. And I took my food home. She just looked at me like, "What in the world's wrong with you? You know, like you're nuts, right?" I thought I was too, but I didn't really know what was going on. I felt horrible, scared. My sister at that time was just institutionalized as schizophrenic, and of course, I thought I was coming down with this illness. I told myself I would fight it, and it will not get to me. That probably saved me a lot and helped me get through the worst. I'm sure my parents and ex thought I was having a breakdown like my sister did, but I question now whether she actually had a breakdown, whatever that is, or is she even schizophrenic. Go watch her case study if you want to learn more. There's way too many people that find out when they're institutionalized that they were made toxic, and detoxing cures them and gets them out of the institution. So this is just showing how hard it is to decipher our symptoms when we're indoctrinated to think a certain way. Like, I'm coming down with schizophrenia, so I'm thinking that, but I know in my mind it can't be that. It's got to be something else. My digestive system was wrecked. Nauseous, diarrhea, no appetite. I lost about 30 pounds in a couple of weeks. My dad, who also worked there, said to drink a lot of beer. It's what he and all the other guys did to combat the feelings that they felt. And he called it their prescription. Like, they joked about it, but they all drank a lot. In retrospect, Andy Cutler, who runs a detox group, he would say beer is a good chelator. So this also happens often where we who are toxic seem to use our gut instincts to survive. I got wasted every night after work. It took the pain away, mostly mental pain of what the hell was going on. So now I would just say, do you think about people with addictions out there? When I see somebody or hear somebody who's addicted, I absolutely don't believe they were born that way. I don't believe they were... I know you can have trauma that could lead to things like that, but if you don't look into this stuff, then you haven't looked into everything. I also see a lot of people who are homeless walking the streets and they got a mouth full of metal, okay? So try to connect all the dots. Again, get to the true root cause. I ended up in a hospital for a week to see why my digestive system was so messed up. They found a slight duodenal ulcer. The doctor at the time was still my pediatrician. He gave me a pep talk to toughen up. He has no idea how I felt. You might want to look up Mad as a Hatter. A lot of that is how I felt. That's what they called mercury poison people who got poisoned from making hats back in the day, and they used mercury in the process. Very sad when doctors make those kind of statements. Hopefully a lot of that changes quickly. There's a lot of people been told a lot of things that aren't very helpful. When I was back home and I tried to sleep, it was almost impossible to. I once woke up from a deep sleep and I had absolutely no air in me. I gagged and gasped for air. It seemed like an eternity. I felt like I was laying there a very long time not breathing when I woke up. Oxygen starvation is a mercury symptom. Also, it affects how our systems that work automatically, like breathing. So mercury affects all our autonomous symptoms. I saw stars as I was waking up. I was in some deep, deep, dark tunnel. I came out of that tunnel as the air came back into me. Sleep apnea is another issue related to all of this, which I have had for 20 years now, and I figured it out, many years after this episode when I woke up from that deep sleep. Personally, I think I was checking out, and I woke up, thank God. I was afraid to sleep after that. I was afraid to close my eyes because I didn't want to feel that experience again. When I finally, kind of got better after a week in a hospital, I went back to work. I couldn't focus or carry on a conversation for many weeks. I couldn't talk. I could for a bit, and then it would become hard as I couldn't concentrate. I still had small panic attacks hitting me out of nowhere. I was very hyper. I could feel my blood sugar go up and down as I ate and drank. It was like very fast. I'd drink and eat, and my whole body would tremble as my blood sugar was changing. I was diagnosed with borderline diabetic at the time. Maybe that was a few years later. That feeling itself was horrible. When I came home from work, I was very wired. I instinctively walked. I walked for like 2 hours every night. I couldn't sit still because when I sat still, I felt those horrible symptoms. So moving took my mind off of it. I think the sweating I did when I walked helped save me a lot. It helped to detox. They say the body burden drops by 50% in 3 months. Well, it took me about 3 months to feel somewhat normal. Once I saw the improvement, I knew I was not coming down with schizophrenia. But then what was wrong with my sister? I always had that thought in my mind. This walking also moves your lymph system, which is important to detox. So it seemed I was instinctively doing what my body needed to save me from the poison, in my opinion. I always trusted my gut with all this. Like, for instance, when certain groups say you have to chelate, I said my body needs to sleep, so that's what I did. Again, trust your gut. After about 3 months, I seemed on the way to getting better. They say I think I already said this, 50% in 3 months we detox our body burden. My wedding was a few months away. I will say this too, my firstborn was conceived during the time I was definitely poisoned like this really bad. I worry all the time that I somehow affected her. I believe she was born toxic because I was there. I saw her color, very red skin, low AMPGAR scores, low weight. She didn't want to eat. I read about this later. The nurses were actually quite concerned. I mean, she was going to be okay, but it took her a while to perk up. All I can say is these poor babies feeling what toxicity feels like. It just bothers me a lot because I felt what that feels like, and I was 21 years old, and I could barely deal with it. How does a baby deal with this stuff? Again, I don't want to get into the pokes or the vaccines, whatever you want to call them, but I've seen videos of babies reacting, and I believe I know what that feels like. Horrible, just horrible. So anyway, let's move on to about age 40. From 21 to 40, I didn't feel perfect. I felt okay, but I struggled with digestive and flu symptoms and headaches and ocular migraines and all that stuff. I never had normal energy. I felt like I was always crashing. Every weekend I didn't feel well. I made it through the week, and then I'd spend the weekend recovering. The doctor said I had chronic fatigue back then, somewhere around 1999, age 40. I could barely get out of bed. So I thought, what the heck cures this? And the doctor said nothing. So for me, that was another clue. Why can't my doctor help me? I mean, it's the first experience me going to doctors trying to get help, and he just looks at me and says, there's nothing, we don't know what causes it, and there's nothing we can do. It made no sense to me. So I was on a mission to find relief. Thank God my ex-wife was asking around local health stores if she knew anybody that could help with these crazy things. Back then, you got to remember, health stores were not like now where there's dozens and dozens online and offline. We had like one in the area. And back then it was like, well, why do we need a health store? Why should we have to go there and get these supplements and stuff? They were very new. People talked of toxicity, but nobody really believed the depth of the topic. My ex-wife, thank God, found a store who gave her a name of a doctor here, who the clerk described as a mad scientist by his looks and his demeanor. He was very ahead of his time with all this. He knew why this area was a cluster of MS disease and other diseases. He treated with IV chelation mostly for opening blood vessels, but also he would do a challenge heavy metals test. Both IV and challenge tests are not now recommended, but back then, who knew? I didn't know any better. I was desperate. also for something to work and something to tell me what's wrong with me. So I did 3 IVs at the time. I felt fantastic sitting in the chair getting the IV. I felt the symptoms go away. I coughed constantly back then, like all night long, all day long, like constantly coughing. My cough stopped sitting in that chair getting the IV. It was like miraculous. And it stayed away for about 3 days after each IV. And I knew then for sure that removing the heavy metals was what I needed to do. And that was definitely my root cause. That was like a huge finding for me. Unfortunately, I had to, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I had to stop the IV because I wasn't going through a divorce and I couldn't afford it. But I was also reacting to them, which wasn't good. A buddy of mine who I did a case study on here too, he had the same IV and he also felt better. So that was kind of our aha moment when we both realized we were both probably toxic and poisoned from our work. But, what do we do about it? My ex went to the same doctor as I did for her symptoms, so I'll just talk about this briefly. He figured she had a milk allergy at the time and told her to stop all dairy. That night, as she sat almost comatose on the porch compared to her constant nervous movements I was used to, I said, so what did Dr. Cutler tell you? And again, this is not the Dr. Cutler on Facebook. It was a local doctor with the same name, which is kind of ironic. She told me about the milk thing, and I said, well, how do you feel? She said, well, I'm not moving. And all I can say is he nailed it. I do think he needed to go further. Like, what was the root cause of the allergies? I'm pretty sure she had amalgams, and I think that was related to the milk allergy, okay? I'll just stop there on that, but I just wanted to bring that up, just how that connection happened. So now I'm like 42 years old or so. I realize I have amalgam illness. Dr. Cutler suggests I get the amalgams removed. The problem for me was I was in the middle of this divorce, and there was like a $3,000 bill just to remove 2 or 3 at the time, as I recall. At that time, it was not the safe removal protocol, so look up at IAOMT.org for a safe removal protocol. I had them all removed, but one was left in me, which I forgot about for about 15 years, and this is very key. I had several removed in quadrants, all with whatever the safe protocol was back then, which is not the current safe protocol. So over the next 15 years or so, I felt okay, but I was still getting more symptoms. Again, I had one amalgam left. I had ear infections, abnormal EKG, body aches, MS symptoms, fibromyalgia symptoms, fatigue, ocular migraines, all sort of digestive issues. I was gaining weight, nothing I can do to lose weight. I had an addictive personality, I would say. I drank like a fish. Now, as I'm detoxed, I don't drink. I don't need to drink. I don't think about drinking. Almost makes me sick if I do drink. Back then I did stupid things. Personality derealization is a term they use, and I definitely had that. I would do things that normally I wouldn't do. I would do dare type things, like I was fearless. It's definitely a mercury symptom. There's a term for it I can't remember right now. Like some people actually have suicidal thoughts, which I don't think I read in here, but I had tons of those. But being mercury toxic, they come as a casual thought, like oh yeah, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. And you don't even think, like, maybe I would do it. But I know I would never do that because I knew it was the mercury affecting me. But sadly, think of how many people that may be toxic and don't know it, and they go that route because they just can't take it anymore. I know many that were mercury toxic in groups I've been in, that all of a sudden they're not there. And, somebody posts something. And I had one gentleman in the UK who friended me and liked my videos and thought I had a lot of helpful stuff. And he called me a couple times how bad he felt. He had a IV glutathione they gave him, and he knew that's what screwed him up. And he kept telling me he can't take it. One night he tried to call me, and I couldn't take the call, and the next day I saw somebody posted that he took his life. Very, very sad. So anyway, more symptoms: floating feelings, out of body feelings, and I can't believe I forgot this one. The worst symptom of all. Another friend termed this head blips. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, it's just a horrible feeling. It's almost like you're sitting there conscious, and all of a sudden you almost feel like you're going to go unconscious, but then you don't. And you feel it in your head. It's like your brain short-circuiting, or however our bodies work is like for a split second, millisecond, not working right, and then it comes back, and you just feel horrible because you feel like you're going to die or something. I also learned that many of my symptoms were self-inflicted. It's self-inflicted when I ate stuff that moved the mercury around, which is called redistribution. I'll talk about that a little bit more in other videos. Eating thiols, for instance, was making me sick every day because it was moving the mercury around every time I ate. Try not to move the mercury around, you'll feel better. I was also very, very shy, which reversed as I detoxed. Like, I was actually surprised, like, wow, I'm not shy. This is crazy. Funny thing is that I just had a thought now. When I was a little kid, I remember dancing on a dance floor at a wedding, and I was not shy at all. And my God, as I got a little older, I became really, really shy. And I think it says that toxicity changed. But anyway, now I'm not as shy, which is good. ADHD is another thing that seems to be embedded in me, some amounts of it, no matter what. My blood work was all messed up. My B6 was off the charts. Why should it be? There's no reasons for it. I wasn't even eating or taking supplements with B6 in it. Dozens and dozens of other symptoms. I had high cholesterol, low cholesterol. I was up and down all over the board. So during that 15 years or so, that one last amalgam was really killing me. I was still looking for answers, not realizing that I had the darn thing in my mouth. You cannot detox with exposure in you. You must remove all exposure. So that one amalgam really had to go. There was a woman in Andy Cutler's group that told me to look at my mouth when I was asking, like, what's going on. Being toxic often leaves us absent-minded. Like, the simplest tasks are difficult. Like, I hate paying bills and writing out checks and balancing a checkbook. I never even bothered to. I hate numbers. I'm an engineer and I hate numbers. I struggle with simple math sometimes. Anyways, another symptom. How many times did I lock myself out of the house? And as I'm going out the door, I'm thinking, don't lock the door. Don't lock the door. And what do? I close the door and lock it. I would do opposite of what I was thinking. Seems like I was thinking backwards. I'd come to a red light and not know what to do. Usually I'd run through it. Going up my stairs in the house, I would like miss a step all the time. Like, now I don't, as I detox. It's just weird things like that it does to you. So anyway, I finally made an appointment to remove that last amalgam with a local IAOMT.org dentist. He was really cool because he knew all about mercury. He believed me. He was cautious. He worked very fast to remove my amalgam. He didn't want any exposure to either of us. He knew how lethal it could be. I held my breath most of the time he removed and replaced that filling. I didn't want to breathe any fumes. I wasn't aware of the various things to prep for this at the time. I did stop vitamin C, which people say could affect the numbing, Novocaine, or whatever they use now. So that's one thing to do. Make sure you look into that if you get your amalgams removed. After you get them removed, you should go and experience a dump. Okay, the dump comes about 4 to 8 weeks after all your amalgam is removed. Your body realizes you have the exposure gone. It says, okay, great, I'm going to start dumping all this stuff. Even after all this, I was still proving to myself it was mercury. And I thought, if I dumped, then for sure all of this, my whole life, must have been mercury. Again, I'm saying that to show you that I just don't jump to conclusions. I'm still proving things to myself. Because I could be wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. I could be missing something at this point. But, for me, my whole life has been heavy metals and primarily mercury. So the dump hit me very hard. I was feeling great after removal, like the daily poisoning was turned off. I felt normal. I felt fantastic. One night I went out and man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I went home right away. I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was the dump because I knew about it, but I felt really, really sick. Dozens of symptoms came back all at once. I thought this must be the dump. For me, it lasted about 10 months. It did peak in the 6 to 9 month time period. For me, 6 to 10 months maybe, like Andy Cutler's chart shows in his book. I could barely work. I hit a lot, so people didn't see how bad I looked. A coworker, like a year later, said everyone saw me and thought, like, what the heck is wrong with Stan? Another symptom I'm thinking of is couldn't tolerate fluorescent lights. So, I'm an engineer sitting in meetings all the time, and I just couldn't deal with it. Made me jittery, made me antsy, anxiety. That's also another symptom. Wow, I missed that. Anxiety, horrible anxiety with all this. During my dump, about 3 months into it, I started getting kidney disease, kidney failure. All I will say is, were my kidneys overburdened, or were they partly damaged from the IV chelation 25 years ago? Some say mercury settles in kidneys. So be sure to do a lot of flushing of your kidneys all the time with this. I was never a big water drinker, so maybe I brought that on, but I couldn't even drink water. I felt so sick. Somehow I reversed the kidney disease by detoxing. My kidney specialist said that doesn't happen, so whatever I was doing, do more of it. I was very sad when I would go to his office, seeing all the people there with metal in their mouths. None of them had a clue. I wanted to tell them all, but it's what do you do, right? It's just sad, very sad. His answer to me was, you're probably right. It's probably heavy metals, but I don't have a test for that, is what he said. So in the health system, they have to have a test that's approved, I guess. And if he doesn't have something he can use, then he can't diagnose. Think about that. While I was struggling with the dump, I went to an acupuncture doctor because I needed help for the pain. It was horrible, emotional, mental, physical. Most of my support was from Facebook groups at the time, and it was trial and error. I had few people around me to support, which is kind of sad, but nobody knew what I was going through. I wish they would have. I wish they'd understand better, but that's just how this goes. You hear that a lot from people like us, because nobody could fathom how you feel, Honestly, it's even hard for me to go back and describe it now. I guess maybe I even put it out of my mind a little bit, but anyway, at this point, I'm about 57 years old. I've been dealing with this since I was 14. Various stages of symptoms, 2 sources of exposure. I don't get into the discussions that I see out there about which mercury is the worst one, like dimethyl and thermos, whatever. I don't even know the names, okay? I don't dig into it that deep, because I just keep it simple, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, Stan. In all of this, if you make it complicated, you're going to get lost in the complexity. Mercury to me is just bad. I don't care any kind. Some people are going to argue with me that only certain mercuries do this and that. That's fine. I don't want none of it in me. None of it in my body is good, in my opinion. I wasn't born with it, at least as far as God goes, and it should not be there. When you decide that something is true and you're wrong, we can really lead ourselves to more problems. So you really, really, really got to be open-minded and very, very, very deep root cause analysis type person. And test things on yourself. If you think it's something, try to come up with a test to prove that that's what it is. But make sure it's a good proof. Don't let it be a false proof. A lot of people I've helped find false proofs. Okay. Anyway, does anyone truly know how to detox a human body? That's where I'm at. Okay. Does it matter how toxic we are? whether we have MTHFR and maybe what degree of that we have. Does our generational issues matter? I see a lot of people out there posting about generational trauma and all that stuff. And to me, I read that as it's not physical. It's not from metals or stuff like this. It's from like emotional trauma, which I believe for sure can be there. But there's another side to it, and there's this side. Okay, so don't just think it's all one thing. And thank God the people that have healed from the emotional generational trauma stuff, but that can take somebody that's mercury toxic, for instance, off track, thinking it's all in my head or it's from my mom or from my dad, it's the way I was treated when I was a child, blah blah blah, and they don't really get to the true root physical removal of the heavy metal. So what's the best test to know you are not toxic? Andy Cutler said, take a chelator high dose for 6 months. No, if you have no symptoms, you're clean. I personally like that. I don't like labs because his test relies on your actual body's response and how it feels. In my case, when I was considering oral chelation, I couldn't take a tiny, tiny little granule of alpha lipoic acid. Now I've tried it because I was looking for maybe some nerve help, that kind of stuff. I'm always experimenting with things and symptoms. I've taken 400 milligrams at a time and I don't feel a darn thing. Nothing in my head, nothing in my body. So that tells me I've detoxed quite a bit. And I'm happy about that. During a dump, my thiol intolerance went away quickly in the first couple months. My adrenals improved. My adrenals are still improving, and it's some 8 years after now. When we're toxic for 40 plus years, how do we even know what normal for us feels like? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know what I would have been like as a human being if I was born not toxic and never saw mercury or any other heavy metals. My shyness went away, my clumsiness got better, memories came flooding back. Things I didn't even recall the first time came back as a memory. Like, really? Like, how do you not even remember the first time you stored it away as a memory? Very weird, okay? About 8 years after amalgams removed, I played drums, okay? At times I had to stop playing. I had no energy. My coordination was off, my muscles, and I had aches very bad. Once I was playing, I looked at the band and thought, who are these people? Like, I had amnesia, okay? And what am I trying to do with these drums? I don't know how I did it. Last summer, I played in a lot of humidity and heat. I was able to play 3 days in a row. That's not easy for my buddy drummers who are not toxic. My adrenals keep improving and they keep amazing me. The improvement even now, 8 years later. My biggest issues today, and again, this seems to come back, or as my friend who was in 9/11 says, we fill up, is I have left side digestive pain, maybe diverticulitis. I still have ADHD type symptoms in my opinion. My short-term memory is starting to go crappy, but I don't know. Maybe that's what happens when you get older because you just can't get all this stuff out or you're damaged. I'm getting achy more hip aches. I know toxins store in the bones, so I probably still have more detox to do. How much does the body store? I don't know. It seems to me even a little exposure causes a lot of detox time needed. How does it spread once it's in the body? I know it can't spread the same for everybody. So if I had the same levels and same metals in me as a friend, we would both have different symptoms, in my opinion. So that's another reason why this is so hard to unravel. And we sound like, what's the word when you're always sick to people. So anyway, I did a video on this. You can find it of what I did to detox. I updated a few days ago, but here's some of my approaches. I think we must detox daily because we're bombarded with way more than we are designed to handle. If you have MTHFR, we definitely need to help the body detox. Sauna is good. Foot detox, I think, has helped me. I see the results. Eating thiols, adding things like chlorella, cilantro, spirulina, when you can tolerate it, might help. I think exercise is fantastic. It moves your lymph system. For me, I'm adding bike rides now where I could barely ride a bike before. Now I'm riding 25, 30 miles. Uh, don't eat anything that's processed. Literally nothing. Even a little bit can make a bad difference in you. I still struggle with that because I just like eating food. Read labels. Why all the chemicals? And realize that trace and low levels can harm. Uh, I'm doing some anti-cancer type regimens, ivermectin and fenbendazole, only because I think metals lead to cancer, and I've been too many years dealing with digestive stuff, and I want to try to be proactive. I'm also looking in the frequency healing, where different frequencies heal different things, and I think I'm seeing some help there. Spiritual and mental mind healing is all good stuff. It's the way we were really born. And I think they took that away from us by toxifying things that help with that. I'll just say that much. One little simple thing, I think we are what we think to a degree. If you think I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, you'll keep telling yourself that's what you are. And I think it helps you stay sick. Try to think more like I'm perfectly healthy. I'm asking my higher self to heal my body. Things like that. I feel great. Think positive affirmations. I think you'll help yourself get well. It's not easy to get well. My acupuncture doctor said she sees a lot of very sick people, and you have to have a really strong mindset to get well. Some people don't get well because they just can't deal with it. It's not easy. So again, look at my newer video on how I detoxed. So some closing thoughts. I didn't go over every symptom I had. It would take many hours. Some days it was horrendous. I was on my hands and knees, like yelling, God, please stop this. Okay, and I know other people have been there, so it's not just me. Please realize we are all trained to want facts. We want the data. We want proof. We want source links and all the many trust science comments. I'm sorry, but the system pays people to hang around groups and media pages making these remarks. It's all, in my opinion, to stop us from finding the truth. A few years ago, you couldn't post, for example, on Facebook a lot of this stuff. Now it's being allowed for some reason. So thank God that's happening. I have my feelings and reasons why that is the case. You may see it differently. That's fine, as long as we all get healthy. That's all that matters. Think about trusting your gut, your intuition. It's funny how all that is starting to be more science-based now than the other stuff, as we uncover our true human abilities. Keep spreading the truth. I think we all see some of that happening now. Robert Kennedy, whether you like him or not, or like what's going on right now, he's talking a lot about our food being toxic. All I can say is, why now? Why not before? What's going on? So here's a question. If some people reverse mental health issues with detox, and I already mentioned this, were discharged from institutions, were they really mentally ill? It's the same scenario with all illness and disease. Many reverse disease and symptoms of illness with detox. How can that happen? Okay, is there two different versions of the disease, or is it really mostly from toxicity? I know if I went to a doctor for all my symptoms, I would sure have had dozens or more illnesses and diseases. Does that even make any sense? My buddy Vince, I mentioned, had like 12 to 15 diseases. That makes no sense. He wasn't born that bad to get all those diseases. Something gave him the diseases. What do we all do about this now? What can I do to help my sister? I really don't know. I wish I knew what to do, but she's 50 years in an institutional type setting with, she's a mess from the drugs they put her on and shock treatments and everything else. What about all of us struggling to get our health back? Where does this end? Anyway, for now, that's the end. Sorry if I get a little emotional into my opinions on things, but I've been doing this way too long, and I have too many people agreeing with me lately. So anyways, thanks for listening. Please share this information, like, comment, and subscribe So much more seems to be coming to light now, thank God. I'll add this in. I just talked to my buddy this morning. 3 to 4 years with digestive troubles. He got a hair test, which I suggested he do. He has multiple metals and minerals deranged. His doctors offered no help. He had tons of tests, no answers. He was worried he's going to die. Maybe he's going to get cancer. Right now, he's happy. He at least has something to work with. His wife is now, now going to get a hair test too because of what he learned. So there's 2 people maybe on to a better situation just from sharing this information. While we were talking about, the waitress was listening. She's had some bad things in her life, health things, digestive issues and more. I don't want to get personal. And she's very interested in looking into what more can she do, So look at that, just a couple, 3 people just from some conversations about hair tests. All right, I don't know if this helped or not. I finally did my case study best as I could. I'm still working on some digestive issues, but everything else, I'm functioning and I'm running around living life. Maybe not as perfect as people with better better detox systems, but I'm much better. Can't even compare to how I was when I was 30 and 40 and 20 years old. So keep spreading the word, and thanks for listening.